Alrighty, what's up guys? So I'm gonna try something new here. In a future video I'll have a cool little green screen behind me so I can make a little bit better graphics. But nonetheless, something I wanted to do was this is just gonna be me and you one-on-one, and I'm gonna go through, obviously for those of you that follow me, when this video gets published, you know that I just competed 2 weeks ago. I did very well, placed first. It's honestly a humbling experience. It was a good experience, and I will definitely do another show in 3 to 4 years. I really did actually enjoy the show day, but there were 4 or 5 things that I wish I knew before I ever signed up to do a prep, and I just kind of wanted to share those with you. Hopefully they help you out if you ever decide to compete. I definitely think having a mentor or having someone ask questions to or things of that nature is super helpful. So hopefully this is your mentor from afar. First, lack of energy from hunger. So for me personally, the prep was 30 weeks long. It started September 25th of 2016 and ended technically on, I think the date was April 22nd of 2017. So that was 30 weeks or 31 weeks from the very first day of prep to the day of the show. And the first, I would say, 12, 16 weeks, maybe 18 weren't too bad. But towards the end, the last 12, definitely the last 8, really the last 6. And as you get closer and closer, obviously your calories get lower and lower. Um, the lack of energy was just, it got a lot harder. Me personally, I run a company called Structural MD. I'm a grad student and I work part-time for Osborne Engineering. And I work 18 hours a day. If you follow Document the Journey, link it up. Um, you know that I work a lot, 3:30 to 9:30, 18 hours a day. I show everything. It was extremely difficult to maintain that level of work on the low calories. Your energy's a lot lower. I got pretty abusive of caffeine towards the end. I'll plug a product for first form called Adrenal Restore that I took post show. And I'll definitely you can link up the video of what that product is if you're curious and want to check it out. Highly recommend it if you abuse caffeine like I did. I had to abuse pre-workout, Monster, just to maintain that level, and it wasn't healthy and it wasn't sustainable, and I knew that. But your energy levels become extremely low with the low calories, and not only that, but your patience level. The term hangry, you really get a new definition of that term when you do a show, just because you have no patience for anything. Like even the slightest thing just kind of sets you off, and you really have to know that. And I know doing a show that I was the worst version of myself those last 3, 4, 6 weeks. I just didn't have the patience. I was very like antisocial in the gym. I'm an extremely competitive person. Some people will say it's unhealthy. It's just my natural state is I thirst on competition, thirst on it. I drink it up. But that was definitely something and I don't think you can really learn that from somebody. I just think it's something you have to be aware of. But then again, even being aware of it, it's kind of like the idea of touching the stove. Mom says, "Hey, don't touch the stove." And the kid touches the stove and he burns himself or herself, and you kind of learn through that experience. And I think that's kind of just one of those situations. The second thing I wish I knew was the amount of time. So, me being a white folk living in the northeastern part of the United States and competing in the spring, which means we just had winter, which means snow, cold, and yeah, no sun or a little bit of sun. Um, there was cardio, there was the training, there was tanning, there was all the grocery shopping and things of that nature. And really, just towards the end, the closer you get to the show, the amount of time you spend focused on yourself and that stage, that physique becomes more and more and more. It just kind of increases. So that's just something to keep in mind. I luckily finished the show before final exams started at school, which start today, this upcoming week, when I record this video of May 1st. Not sure when I'll publish it yet because I have to edit it, but uh, the time commitment becomes really, really extreme. I was doing roughly 5 hours of cardio a week, additional. Tanning was getting more and more towards the end, and things of that. It just really eats up your time. So it's just something to be aware of if you have a lot of prior time commitments. Like I touched on in part one, it was hard for me to maintain my prior commitments of work and school and things of that nature with the show. Just something to be aware of, especially for those of you that have families or kids. I have no idea how they do it, but seriously, hats off to you because that's incredible. The third thing is just the mental toll. So personally for me, I do flexible dieting or IIFYM. I've made many videos and blog posts on it. It's just something I like. I'm not saying my way is right or you have to do it that way, but regardless, whatever way you choose, there's no shortcut plan, food group, whatever that gets you around the fact that you're going to have to get to relatively uncomfortably low calories. And when you do that, the toll of paying attention to food on that level gets to be rather a nuisance. You just have to start getting down to the minutia details of condiments and things of that nature, and it just becomes rather taxing because okay, working out's one thing. Like working out, okay, it's taxing like for an hour or 2 hours. Yeah, it's hard. But then the whole food thing involves basically your entire other 22 hours outside of the gym. It just becomes a mentally taxing thing when you're doing it every single day. They call it prep brain, and I told myself when I started prep that, oh, I'm not going to get prep brain. I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to do it whatever. It wasn't the case. Towards the end, you just got very focused on it. And it's just something you have to do. It just comes down to that level of dedication, and there's really no shortcut around it. You're going to have to dedicate an extreme amount of time, and it does become mentally draining to have to be so strict and so concerned about every little detail. Because to reach that level that you need to reach to win or to stand on stage, you just have to. I mean, it's just part of the story. It's kind of like in school, if you want to get that A, well, you really are going to have to cut back on partying or going out and things of that nature. And it's just a trade off. Neither one's right or wrong. It's just whatever you choose to do. And the last thing is cost. So there was a lot of things I spent money on that I really didn't think I was going to spend money on. So there's the registration of the show itself, registration for the show federation card. So you have to pay for the show. Then whoever hosts the show, like NPC, NMA, OCB, all those different acronyms, um, you have to buy a membership card. So it's basically like buying a ticket to a football game and then buying an additional ticket just to be part of the NFL. Same kind of idea, even though that's not how it works in real life. Hopefully that's an analogy that makes sense. Then there was tanning, which cost, there was tanning the day of the show, spray tanning. There was tanning beds, like going on prior because I'm a white folk and I live in the north in the winter, so we don't get sun. And then there was the posing trunks, and then there's a hotel because for me I did one away from home and things of that nature. And then I also started buying a little bit different foods that were a little bit more healthy than normal because the macros got low and I wanted to get things that were more macro friendly. And because I wanted things that were more macro friendly, they'll cost a little bit more money. So costs got pretty steep towards the end. I'm not sure what the total bill is, but I'll definitely go back and look and try and get a rough number and throw that in the video for you guys. But I mean, all in all, it was a great experience. I did thoroughly enjoy it. I will definitely do another one in 3 to 4 years. The interesting thing was the weeks leading up to it, I was like, oh my gosh, like I'll never do another show. Like I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. But that day of the show of seeing all that work pay off, it's something that's truly remarkable, and it was actually really enjoyable. Now, post show is a little bit different, and I can't touch on it fully. I'm only in the second week post show, but I've done a lot of trying to document the reverse dieting process, and some of the hardest things post show are one, a lot of people have post show blowouts. They just binge on all the foods that they couldn't eat before, and I even witnessed it at the show. People brought brownies and cupcakes and all sorts of the unhealthy quote unquote goodies backstage, and they were eating them as soon as we got off stage, within seconds. And I understand, but that's all people talked about all day was the food and what they're going to eat and this and that. It's like, you know, it just seems unhealthy. Everyone looks at those bodybuilder physique fitness people and they're like, "Wow, you look so great. You must be so healthy." But they don't like check it up here, and that's something that's not addressed. And a lot of people have post-show blowouts where they gain excessive amount of weight post-show, 30, 40 pounds, and I'll link up that video that I made that I addressed it in more specifically. But in the post-show process, I'm up 3, 4-ish pounds from the stage, which is really good. And the interesting thing is, and I can't touch on this fully because I'm still going through it, is the mental shift that takes place. For weeks, for days, and for months, you were focused on seeing the scale go down. Lower, 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 lower. More definition, more, more leanness, whatever you want to call it. And now all of a sudden, the scale starts to go back up and it goes back up. And it messes with you mentally because it's a complete opposite shift. It's a complete 180. And it really does mess with you mentally. It's just is what it is. You're human and you want to keep that level of leanness because you do look good and you want to keep it. But subconsciously you know that stage presence, that what you looked like on stage is a short-term thing because you set it up for like one event. Like the conditioning and the manipulation with food and all carbs and sodium and all that jazz was for one specific time, that moment on stage. And subconsciously you know that you can't maintain it, yet you want to, and it's just a tough mental transition, and I'm still going through it, and I still haven't quite figured it out, but I'll definitely touch on that in another video. I hope you guys are able to learn something from my first experience on stage. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm more than happy to answer them, and I look forward to talking to you guys in the next video.